On February 3, 1960, three college students were sitting in a drugstore reading the Atlanta Daily World. They saw a headline, "Greensboro students sit in for third day." One of them, Lonnie King, a Morehouse student, turned to his friend Julian and said 6 words that would ignite a movement. "We should do this here." He had no idea that those 6 words would result in 200 students marching across Atlanta in coordinated formation. He didn't know that 77 of them would be arrested. He couldn't have predicted that his decision would desegregate over 300 restaurants, inspire the founding of SNCC, and permanently change the South. He was just a college kid, and he decided to act. But here's what separates the Atlanta sit-ins from every other civil rights action that year. They were strategic, they were brilliant, and they were written down. According to historical documents archived by the Georgia Historical Society, on March 8, 1960, Lonnie King and his organizing team met with the Council of Presidents of Atlanta's 6 historically black colleges: Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta University, Morris Brown, and the Interdenominational Theological Center. The presidents were skeptical. They wanted the students to put their position in writing, so the students did something unprecedented. Roslyn, a Spelman College student body president, along with Julian and Lonnie King, drafted an appeal for human rights. According to the SNCC Digital Gateway archives, this wasn't a hastily written manifesto. It was a sophisticated, methodical indictment of segregation. The document laid out the injustices in education, jobs, housing, voting, healthcare, entertainment, and policing. And it concluded, "Today's youth will not sit by submissively while being denied all of the rights, privileges, and joys of life. We must say in all candor that we plan to use every legal and nonviolent means at our disposal to secure full citizenship rights." That appeal was published on March 9, 1960, as a full-page advertisement in 3 Atlanta newspapers. 6 days later, on March 15, 1960, approximately 200 students mobilized across the city. They didn't organize spontaneously, they didn't riot. They filed into lunch counters at City Hall, the Capitol, the courthouse, and downtown restaurants, places where federal and state tax dollars were being spent to enforce segregation. According to the Atlanta Voice, 77 students were arrested, and not a single act of violence occurred. What made the Atlanta sit-ins different from other protests that year was the organization behind them. The Committee on Appeal for Human Rights, COAHR, formed on March 16th, was structured like a legitimate political organization. Lonnie King was chairman. John Mack was co-chairman. There were representatives from each of the 6 colleges. There was a treasurer, a secretary, a communications strategy. These weren't kids acting on impulse. These were young intellectuals conducting what amounted to a siege. When negotiations stalled, they escalated. According to New Georgia Encyclopedia records, demonstrators who were arrested began refusing bail, deliberately crowding jails to increase the pressure. By the end of 1960, downtown Atlanta businesses reported a 13% revenue decline due to the student boycott, $20 million in lost sales. On October 19, 1960, Martin Luther King Jr. himself came to Atlanta and participated in a sit-in. He was arrested. That night in jail became a turning point. According to historical records documented by the Library of Congress, that arrest attracted the attention of John F. Kennedy, and a famous phone call was made. Some historians credit that call with changing the 1960 presidential election. By March 6, 1961, an agreement was signed. Over 300 lunch counters across Atlanta were desegregated. Approximately 600 African-American employees were rehired. This was the first desegregation agreement signed in the South, the first one. And it started with 3 college kids reading a newspaper in a drugstore. Lonnie King didn't wait for permission. He didn't petition the older generation. He organized. He strategized. He wrote. He mobilized. He led 200 people into the teeth of a system designed to crush them. And he won. What did Lonnie King understand that so many leaders miss today? He understood that power responds to organization, not to begging. He knew that young people didn't need permission to demand their rights. They needed each other. He realized that a well-planned protest is infinitely more powerful than a spontaneous one. This is the movement they try to reduce to a footnote. This is the uprising that helped birth SNCC. This is the strategy that changed the South. What would you have done in their position? Would you have been the one who said, "Let's do this here," or would you have waited for someone else to start? Drop your answer below, not as a comment, as a conversation.